Hey everybody, this is JC Uncle Jim. Thanks for tuning in back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about building a bag, and really not building a bag itself, but why do you build a bag? So if you're a couple of years into disc golf, by now you know you have your favorite discs. If many of those are from different manufacturers, as new discs come out, you're kind of now getting confused, right? In all the flight numbers things and issues like that. Each brand's a little different from each other. There's slight nuances in all the plastics, that sort of thing. So the main reason why you want to build a bag is so that you can have one plastic, one feel in your hand. After playing disc golf for several years, I got back into it again in like 2016, 2017, lately. The last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, I've gotten very serious with my disc golf game. And it's been highly advantageous for me to pick a manufacturer, pick a type of plastic, and get all of my discs in that same plastic. So when it comes to a driver, a fairway driver, mid-ranges, and approach discs, no matter what obstacle I'm facing or what type of shot I'm looking at, if the circumstances calls for the driver, the fairway driver, the mid-range, or the approach shot, I have the same plastic in my hand, which means I have the same feel in my hand, which makes me feel more confident, more comfortable in my shot. I'm no longer worried about certain things. They're just second nature now. And I'm going to just decide which disc is appropriate of those options, and then which grip am I going to apply to that disc based on the distance and the power that I'm going to apply to the shot. So with the manufacturers, if you find a plastic that feels good, I suggest that you just go ahead and commit to that, and you begin to build a bag so that you have all those things planned out for you on the course. There's enough to worry about on the course with where's your gap, how far is it, what kind of wind is there. Other factors in the United States, it's humidity, altitude, all those things. You got enough to worry about besides which plastic feels best in your hand. So once you find that, stick to it. The next reason why you want to build a bag is because each brand or manufacturer is working closely with pros and other representatives that advocate for this style of disc or whatever. They like this type of plastic, try this kind of change. They're already deciding what the next step is. So if you have a driver and it's too stable, that manufacturer will have the driver that's just below that stability that's more understable, and then another one that's more understable, and then another one that's more understable. So the solutions are there. You don't have to think to yourself, gosh, should I have used my Star Wraith? Should I have used my Pro Wraith? Should I have used an Undertaker? Should I have used my Thunderbird? Should I have used my Sapphire? No, right? They have already laid out the path for you. Now, the other reason to build a bag is because flight numbers are different for each manufacturer. So if you have, if your current bag that you carry around on the course has 4 different manufacturers in it, let's take the numbers of a 10 speed, 5 glide, -2 turn, and a 2 fade. Each manufacturer, those exact same numbers are going to fly differently. And then when you go from a 10 speed to an 8 speed, and now you do the 8 speed, 5 glide, -2 turn, 2 fade, that's a whole different -2 turn and 2 fade than it was with the 10 speed or the 11 speed, 12 speed, etc. So you need to be informed, and this is where the manufacturers will help you. What is the next step? You know, once you decide, am I throwing a driver? Am I throwing a fairway? Am I throwing a mid-range? Or am I throwing an approach? And then in each of those 4 categories, they will have a list of solutions available for you. Take the thinking out of it. And for me, I hate numbers. They just make you second guess everything. It's stuff you shouldn't be focused on. So the advantage of building a bag is consistency and confidence that you're building, right? All the plastic's the same. I know that this one's more stable than that one because they're the same manufacturer. I don't care what the numbers are. I just am concerned mainly about that stability. The speed is going to be your driver, fairway, mid-range approach. Those are all different speeds. So I don't need to think about the number speed if I choose the right category of disc. Building a bag, why would you want to build a bag? You want to build a bag that suits your style, right? I'm 55 years old. I cannot change my drive. I've tried to change my drive. You try to watch videos. I try to go Anheuser and shape a shot to get more distance and to get it to turn longer. I can't. So I need to let that disc do the work. Because when I drive, I'm going to come out at this type of angle hyzer, and an understable disc is going to flip to flat, and a really understable disc is going to flip to flat and then glide to the right. A stable disc is going to go out and then kind of maybe go a little bit flat, but it's going to head immediately left. So knowing that, I'm not changing my style to fight that number. So I chose Prodigy for my bag because I like the plastic best. So the 400 plastic. All of my discs are 400 plastic. So they all feel the same when I grab them, no matter if it's a driver, an approach, or a mid-range, doesn't matter. It's the same feel. And that gives me confidence, right? So now I'm not thinking, this one feels kind of funny today. If it's my third throw, it's going to feel just like my approach shot disc is going to feel just like my driver did 2 minutes ago, even though because they're the same temperature and it's the same plastic. So I don't have to think about that sort of thing. And Prodigy, without flight numbers, I just know, here's my D4. If I drive my D4, and let's say it's a little bit of a headwind, so I do my normal style, which is this, and it flips up to flat, and then it turns. The solution is to go down one number to my D3. So the D3 is more stable than the D4. A D2 is more stable than a D3. I don't have an arm strong and fast enough to throw a D2. It's just way overstable for me. So, I mean, being 55 years old, what can you say? So that's an easy solution. If it's not a headwind and I throw my D4 and it turns, but it doesn't turn long enough, I just pick out my D6, right? D is for drivers. End of story. I'm done thinking about it. Solutions there, right? Stable, less stable, very understable. It's a piece of cake. Changing from drivers, right, which Prodigy can't make it any easier. D for drivers, F for fairway drivers, right? We got M for mid-ranges, right? We got A for approach discs. I don't need to consider what speed is an approach disc. I don't need to know the speed of this. This is an approach disc. That's all I need to know, which means it's not going to go far. It's not going to have much ground action on it, right? It's going to generally be more stable than not, right? End of story. Field work is very important for this. It'll help you eliminate discs from your bag like crazy. So that leads me into the next step. How do you build your bag? Buy multiples of the same disc. I can step up and throw this once. Oops, I miscalculated the wind. It flipped up to flat, turn, and didn't go that far. Great. Instead of saying, I don't like that disc, or that disc doesn't work for me, 20 seconds later, I got the same disc in my hand, right? And I'm making an adjustment because, oh, it's windier than I thought out there. So I throw it a little bit more on a hyzer, and there it goes. Perfect. Flips up to flat, turns and glides straight for a little bit, fades nice and slow, and beats it by 70 to 90 feet. That's the one, right? Then I take the third one, and I get up there, and I try to do the same thing. And let's say I don't. Let's say I finger lock it, or something like that, or just have a shank or whatever, those happen, right? Well, I'm not going to give up on that disc, right? I'm going to go walk out to those 3 discs, turn around and throw them back, and hopefully iron out those situations so that I can learn what kind of wind conditions can I throw this in, what are the best conditions to throw it in. Once again, just using my normal form, not changing me, just changing disc. Now when I'm out in the field work too, same thing. You want to not take your bag out and throw your bag as field work. You want to take your practice bag out, and one day your practice bag should have all your drivers in it. And you learn to throw those drivers. You're not mixing in approach discs, and you're not working on putting, and you're not working on your fairway drivers. You're just trying to learn when to throw each of your drivers that you have in your bag. So for me, that's a D3, a D4, and the D6. Period. Because if you're not a pro, I really feel some of the things I talk about can help you. We don't want to throw the disc pros are throwing unless you've got that same speed of arm, because they're not going to react like, you know, it's like, oh geez, you know, he turns that Zeus just fine. I couldn't turn a Zeus, you know, unless I'm doing cartwheels and whipping it down a hill or something like that. There's no way I'm going to approach that speed. So, right? So I hope this has helped you guys. I mean, every pro has their let's build a bag, and this is what I have in my bag. Don't necessarily get the discs they have, and you don't need to build their bag to play like them. But look at the progression of their discs. You know, how many drivers are they carrying? Do they have their overstable version for their speed arm? Of course they do. Do they have the perfect speed and stability for their normal arm? Of course they do. Do they have an understable disc that if they throw the same as they threw those, it'll act understable? It'll act as an understable disc and turn and go right? Of course they do, right? That's the important thing, that you have the solutions to the problems you face on the course. And the solution has to match you, your style, the speed of your arm, right? The types of grips that you do, right? But if you don't like the plastic, get away from that. And a lot of manufacturers, it's hard to get drivers, mid-ranges, and fairways and approach discs all in the same plastic. So I have dropped literally 5 strokes off of my game. In the first year I started to build a bag, because every disc I picked up, whether it was my mid-range, my approach disc, my fairway, or my driver, they all felt the same in my hand. Whew! Isn't that a great feeling, right? So make your bag, knock off a couple strokes. So in wrap up, this is JC Uncle Jim. I want to thank you for watching today. Please click the link to my icon below. You can look at my entire playlist on grips and some form and some basic shots like Kaiser flip and little flick approach shots. I'm not a pro, so you'll probably learn a little bit more from watching me if you run out and try it. But gosh, sure appreciate your time. And just remember, be kind, be grateful.